Hello there, various people traveling the internet. Long time no see. I'm wishing you well. On my end, a lot of things change and a lot of things stay the same. At long last, I'm continuing with the picture of Dorian Gray. I reread the preface this morning, but I'm going to read it again here since the last video was so long ago and I did such a poor job. I hope that in the meantime, if you enjoyed or were interested in the idea of the picture of Dorian Gray, you've gotten into it. Part of the reason why I'm starting this again now is because it's been turned into a musical, of all things. So I'd like to read it before I ever get the chance to go and visit the musical. If that ever does happen. All right, then. For those who have not seen my reading of the Satanic Bible or this previously, I am doing a critical reading, examination, discussion of the text as we go along, because... Oh, phone's ringing. It's okay. Because these are ideas worth examining, and it's nice to have somebody go over what ideas are being presented as they come. My original idea when I was going through the Satanic Bible was so much of not taking things at face value, and that this is a curiosity that a lot of people are going to have strong opinions about, so how much does this hold up or not? In this case, I'm glad that this book is the way it is. Oscar Wilde, the writer, who was some sort of queer, I'm not sure if he was gay specifically, but was captured by the government and imprisoned for a lot of his life. He might have been immorally experimented upon as well. All of that aside, he had some very strong opinions on art and what makes a good artist, as do I. I think that a lot of artists do, at least those who have spent a lot of time in language arts, because, we want to have... Language is so much a logical system, and a logical system is so much a language system, that we want to be able to have all of our ducks in a row and say why this thing is beautiful, why this art is worth doing, etc., etc. I'm probably going to be sharing my own artistic opinions and my philosophy of artistry. Aesthetic is the actual... it's a subcategory of axiology in terms of philosophy, but it'll come up throughout this, I'm sure. All right. One heck of a preamble, ain't it? A preamble to the preface. All right, then. Preface. I didn't reread the... There's a preface to the preface called the Artist's Preface, in which there is a painter. I'm not sure if this is a real painter or one that was invented for the fiction, called Basil Hallward. Basil Hallward. And he was a friend of Mr. Wilde. I'm not sure if he has received an honorary doctorate, so I'll just call him Oscar for the time being. If there's any of his descendants who would challenge me on that, I don't call him Oscar on a friendly basis. I'm coming at this with, I think, the appropriate level of respect. Anyway, yeah, just because he was queer doesn't mean he didn't have descendants. Anyway, was a friend of Mr. Howard's and was painting a young lad that inspired this whole book. Very cute. Now, this is actually Wilde speaking, supposedly in his own voice, for the proceeding. The artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is the art's aim. The critic is he who can translate into another manner or a new material his impression of beautiful things. We've got 3 sentences here, and I already have 3 disagreements. I would say that the artist is one who is expressing themselves through creation, their particular viewpoint or experience. That's not the precise wording that I would use if I would have to write it down, my axiology, but that's, if somebody told me, hey, this is what you believe, right? I'd agree with them. Because it's not necessarily about beauty, it's about transmitting feeling and soul, or in it, even like the physical experience, like I'd call fear a very physical experience, or making somebody remember this explicit, specific memory that they might have had, be that a vision or a muscle memory. Like, there are artists who can really perfectly recreate a scene, and like, for them, I'd say that the art is more about their relationship in the making and about what it means for them to be able to complete such a technically complex work, rather than the emotion that's in the work itself. So the art is in the act of painting rather than the painting. I'll be honest, even as I say these words, I'm thinking, Jesus, I need to review my own aesthetic opinion, don't I? And critique that. I'll do that momentarily. But second thing second, the term of critique, which, hello, I would say that it can also be a type of art, because once again, I'm putting forth the caveat, the condition that somebody needs to be transmitting their feeling or experience. They need to be imprinting themselves out into the world in order for it to be art. So then that does raise an interesting question here, because, I mean, no, it has to be the mindset behind it. Because obviously a lot of me is going into this critique here. You're getting my opinions and my voice and my mannerisms to a great degree. But it's not something I'm doing intentionally to put myself here. It's more about taking these ideas and spinning them around and seeing what can be found. So I'd say that a critique can be artistic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. In the same way that I'd say that a painting doesn't necessarily have to be artistic. And that's where the idea of crafts versus painting comes in, crafts versus arts comes in, and how somebody can be a great craftsman and or a great artist, but not necessarily both. Craft about technical skill and creativity. All right. Repeating, the critic is he who can translate into another manner or new material his impression of beautiful things. And I mean, there's something that's implicitly wrong with that statement. Not implicitly wrong. Something wrong about that statement in that so much of art is carefully replicating something, and sometimes to explore how it made a person feel. Like, why would you not, if we're sticking with painting here, if you're painting a beautiful sunset, it's because you think it's beautiful and you want to translate that visual image into into another manner, or a new material, in this case paint, instead of a vast array of sand and sea and sky. I guess you could call that a sculpture, but that's why I wouldn't call it art, since I don't think that it was intentional. I guess a lot of deists would disagree, the grand creation. All right. The highest, as the lowest, form of criticism is a mode of autobiography. And so I guess it's about how much the critic knows that it is an autobiography. But I'd say that all art is autobiographical, while not all critiques are art, therefore not all of them are necessarily autobiographical. Anyway, but his impression. So if you are doing a critique, then no matter what, it's going to be autobiographical because it's your impression of the thing. Those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these there is hope. Like people can't change. Like, I'm not going to get into predetermination and, like, people are essentially good. I've never really lost grasp of my overall axiology. People are necessarily good. That's like the basis of what makes us, well, not the basis of what makes us people. It's the basis of I am not going to explain my entire axiology to you right now. I'm writing a book about it. And I already have other videos where you can pull that out. But I wouldn't blame you if you waited for the book, where I'm doing things in a far more professional manner than in this kind of conversational tone that I'm using with you now. All right. All right. Ugly meanings and beautiful things. Well, I would say that every single perspective is beautiful and worth exploring, and there are lots of people who find beauty in ugliness. So there are like 3 layers here. You can take a beautiful thing, pull the ugliness out of it, and then appreciate the beauty of the ugly of the beauty, you know? Like life being a tragedy, and then the tragedy being something that you can enjoy. I know so many people who, oh, I need this sad poetry. I just want this sad poetry I can cry with. I love those people. They're good people. I'm one of them occasionally. So, those who find beautiful things, there's hope. And he says there's hope for them, but then he himself uses the word the cultivated, as in they have been cultivated, like that's not how people first appeared. Everybody needs education. Some more with active help than others, but we don't come out the same and then stay the same. I've spoken in the past, but I'll repeat here, about even the passage of time itself changes our perspective on the passage of time and the order of events, even if we refuse to change. So it's really impossible to not feel the wear of the years. Like, and even if a person's mindset remains the same, since things will change around them, presumably. Yeah, because we're talking about the passage of time. The passage of time, since things will change around them, if they remain the same in this new context, then that's going to change their mood or behaviors, even if they come into things with the same mindset. Like, we're all puzzle pieces. We're jigsaw puzzle pieces, specifically. We have a better and a worse fit. We're all metal girders, bending and twisting and creaking in the heat of the sun, or rusting in the rain. But then, isn't rust not beautiful? I'm not sure if you've ever done this or if you're too afraid of tetanus, but feeling freshly rusted metal, maybe even peeling it off, there's joy in decay. I feel like decay really is in the mind of the beholder. It's another type of creation. There's no way of separating these things. All right. Referring to those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things, a type of critic, they are the elect to whom beautiful things means only beauty. And once again, he points out that they are elected and cultivated. But just the term elect makes me think that this is some kind of a theological opinion. We'll see later in the book how often this fellow alludes to the Lord. There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. That's not terminology that I use in my axiology, so I'm going to withhold judgment for now and see what that means to him. Books are well written or badly written. That is all. And I'm guessing he's talking about how evocative it is, but no, he's specifically talking about beauty. But then, what does he mean by beauty? Because if it's well written, it's going to evoke beauty, but then only certain people can tell what beauty really is. All right. And I guess there's something to be said, like, what about a book that calls for violence? What about a book that promotes falsehood? And even in terms of fiction, I mean, if an author pours their heart out into a fiction and they don't think that they're necessarily making prescriptions about how one should act in real life, books are autobiographical. Our opinions, our understandings of how a rational, reasonable person may interact with others and what people do during hard times or during easy times. That's all autobiographical in a lot of ways. Oh, and just throwing out there, I'm still balding, not bald yet. I did go through a phase where I cut this out. It's a hairstyle that Alejandro Todorovsky uses in The Holy Mountain that I like. I mean, I gave it a try, bring these two peaks together. I just like hats. Like, I have this big pronounced brow ridge, but it doesn't keep the sun out of my eyes. What's the point? It doesn't keep the sweat out of my eyes either. Just drips right in there. Hat. And also, I like the look. All right. Moral or immoral books, well written, badly written, that is all. The 19th century dislike of realism is the rage of Caliban, not seeing his own face in a glass. The 19th century dislike of romanticism is the rage of Caliban, not seeing his own face in a glass. I got more information last time whether or not Caliban actually uses a glass in the play of The Tempest, but I did a little bit of background reading on this already. I still haven't read chapter 1. That's going to be all fresh impressions. But as a reminder to those reading, Caliban is a weird, monstrous fellow who has strong animal impulses, kind of up to no good, at the mercy of his animal impulses. And he also curses that he is in such a fashion, that he is compelled in such a way, he feels like he has no control, that he has to be an ugly thing. And so he doesn't want to know that he is, in his opinion, such an ugly thing, but also he wants to feel seen and represented and a part of the world. Caliban. Oh, something that I learned this time that I didn't know last time. Cannibal is a weird European misinterpretation of the Carib people who actually go by a different name, but the Carib is where Caribbean comes from, and the Carib people were at one point known as cannibals, which also meant of the Caribbean. So that's where that term comes from. I always thought it was weird that it didn't sound like Latin necessarily. And also, they also don't call themselves Carib people. I'm not sure how much they still exist and how much of their culture still exists. But I know it begins with the Kali, and then there are like 2 or 3 other syllables. The moral life of man forms part of the subject matter of the artist, but the morality of the art consists in the perfect use of an imperfect medium. But we're just pushing the goalpost forward here. It doesn't matter what moral prescriptions are implicitly in the book because of the moral life of the man or the subject matter, as long as it's a perfect use of the medium, and it's a perfect use of the medium if it's well written. But what does that mean exactly? If it's beautiful, but what does that mean exactly? All right. No artist desires to prove anything. Maybe to themselves, in the case of living out your own art, manifesting your skill. That's what it was. It wasn't about what I said previously. The thing was the completion of the work being like the labor of the work is how you put yourself into your artwork if you're not intending something particularly emotional with your creation. All right. Mm-hmm. I do think that if you want to prove a thing, then it does make the art worse, because that is something kind of getting in the way of a purer expression of your feeling. I mean, it would certainly make you a better craftsman if you place certain limitations, and it can be fun and, excuse me, just in the matter of, can I create this kind of emotion with these kinds of materials, or only using these kinds of shapes, etc., etc. But yeah, if you go into it where I want to make this art to do this thing, then I think it makes the art worse. It doesn't make it fail as art, and it can make you a better craftsman, though. But that means there are artists, and I have in the past, I'd say that a lot of artists, I'd say that even Mr. Wilde himself, if I was a scholar of Mr. Wilde, or Oscar, could point out things that he was trying to prove in his arts. I've got the perfect example here. The super famous poem, the sonnet of Mr. Shakespeare. Surely he has an honorary doctorate, no? Either way, it's Shakespeare, the Shakespeare. If hair be wires, then your wires are black and thick, and you're nothing like the sun, and your breasts are done, and all of that jazz. He had a moral in mind with that poem. He was communicating a message. He was using rhetoric, and thus, you can't tell me that that classic piece of Shakespeare was not both art and trying to prove something. Well, you can, actually. There is an argument to be made that a lot of Shakespeare's sonnets, or at least this one that I'm thinking of, Shall I Compare Thee, could be what it's called, is an example of a craft rather than an art, because of the stringent adherence to the structure of the poem, for one, and for two, that the structure isn't being used to enhance an image, but rather present a rhetorical argument. Is there an art to rhetoric? There's a craft to rhetoric. Anyhow, even things that are true can be proved. That kind of seems like a non sequitur. No artist has ethical sympathies. An ethical sympathy in an artist is an unpardonable mannerism of style. But what if we like that mannerism of style? What is style but a collection of mannerisms? Like a Shakespearean sonnet is a very strict number of mannerisms to compose a Shakespearean sonnet. No artist is ever morbid. The artist can express everything. I think what he means is no artist is excessively morbid, because I think that Mr. Wilde himself is guilty of being considered a more morbid artist. I'm not sure if you haven't read this book yet. There's a lot to do with immortality and aging. I don't think we're going to get vampire shenanigans specifically, but in that vein is what I assume. The artist can express everything. And if they're a good artist, a very good artist, I'd say that even the greatest artists would have some difficulties expressing some things, but the thought and language. Thought, language, so the message and the medium. Art to the artist, instruments of art. Oh, so, okay. Vice and virtue are to the artist materials for an art. From the point of view of form, I know this one really threw me off when I was dripping, sick, and coughing, and I had that sickness for like 3 months. From the point of view of form, the type of all the arts is the art of the musician. From the point of view of feeling, the actor's craft is the type. All right, I'm going to leave that on hold. I skimmed through this and did a review, like I said, but the second part is the one that I was able to pull apart. All right. All art is at once surface and symbol. I guess any thought is surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril. Because that's where moral judgment lies, and I guess that refers back to what he was saying about the critic being subject to judgment and artists not being subject to judgment. It is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. You know my opinion on that already. I disagree. Diversity of opinion about a work of art shows that the work is new, complex, and vital. Depends on how many disagreements and what types of disagreements, but the fact that that a work can have many interpretations and that people enjoy it and find it beautiful and worth discussing, I think is nice. But if there's no creative through line, if there's no consistency that people can't agree on certain symbols and what's worthwhile, then no, I think that becomes boring very quickly. I guess, no, because if it's evocative enough, okay, I can agree to that. I'm not trying to come into this with a combative stance. It's just, I'm coming into this with the eye of, I want to tear this to pieces, and so that's where I go first, and then I accept it. I suppose you could even say it's a manner of applying a scientific method in trying to, he's putting forth, is it a hypothesis? I guess it would be. Or I'll just say in plain English, a new idea after new idea after new idea. And is that idea valid? Does it hold up? Has it been contradicted? Okay, let's take this to the deepest level and see what remains underneath. Yeah? Yeah. That the work is new, complex, vital. When critics disagree, the artist is in accord with himself. Yep. This thing I put out there, it's fine. You guys can all argue about it. It's kind of a portrait of life, in a way. Oh, okay. That's really fascinating. So this could help us determine what to Oscar is a criterion of beauty. Specifically that it is something that a lot of people can see themselves reflected in. And that there is vice and virtue present to form the material. Okay. Now, form, I misread this during my skim. I don't know how. I was thinking dancing, not acting. I don't know. That makes no sense. It's a musician. From the point of view of form, the type of all arts is the art of the musician. And he says specifically musician here. So I'm thinking musical performer. I'm thinking like somebody doing skibbly bap bap doo scat. I'm out of practice with my scat, and I want to learn how to juggle this month, as opposed to composition and thinking out in advance how you want to place all of these notes and the rhymes, time signature, and all of that. The type of all arts in the point of form is the art of the musician. So, thought, language, music, vice, virtue, actor. From the point of view of feeling, the actor's craft is the type. So, who is the feeler and who is the former? In either case, we're starting with an art. And I guess what's starting to throw me out here is that he's using forms of art, perhaps, as metaphors for the creation of all other arts. Excuse me, my teacup is my phone stand. Mug. Teacup. Subject matter of the artist is the moral life of the man. Moral life of a man is the subject matter of the artist. Vice and virtue are the materials for an art. That's a reiteration. That's solidifying it. Thought and language are the instruments. So, the instruments create the form of the art. I like that. I think that he chose the term instrument intentionally for that reason. And I'm hoping that this preface is a lot less explored than the rest of the book. But hey, if it weren't worth exploring and piecing all of this apart, then this video wouldn't be worth making, right? Instruments of the art are thought and language, aka... Vice and virtue are the materials for the art, which would correspond with acting. I'm going to make a chart, because I remember last time I had an excuse. I was terribly sick, and I was like, I'll figure this out next time. And that's kind of why I did the review this morning, because I thought I figured it out, but I skimmed a little too quickly, and I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, the dance is this, and then the acting is that, like, focusing on the perfection of the performance and, like, the literal form of the body versus, like, what that body conveys and how that has more moral language. And then I'm not going to wax poetic about what I thought I read this afternoon. All right, making a chart. Or, better yet, I will make this chart after I have finished today's reading, which will be going through chapter 1. And I will share the chart and what sense I'm able to make of this afterwards. Yeah, and for the chapter 2/3 video. We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. I'm guessing he's using that forgive in the older sense of accepting and allowing, but you would accept and allow and forgive somebody for making a useful thing regardless. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. Of course, we have an excuse, and the excuse would be the point. I mean, I should hope that we're trying to exist in a society here where we're able to perform and explore deeper forms of art and self-expression. I mean, we're here to improve our lives and the lives of our brothers and sisters, and my extension of brothers and sisters is definition is very, very broad. I hope yours is as well. And then, I mean, after we're all safe and sound is the expression of beauty. No? Not even the expression of beauty, just artistic pursuits. I'll throw that out there. The pursuit of joy and well-being. All right. And once again, considering that I'm saying that's what we're here on Earth for, that is something that I do go into more detail on in my book. It could very well be that in the process of going through the picture of Dorian Gray, it pushes me to get a lot more done in my book. All right. All art is quite useless. I've already responded to that. I will make you the chart another time. But, just generally speaking, we got to keep in mind that when Mr. Gray, when Mr. Wilde is talking about art or referring to artistic creation throughout the rest of the book, that this is his thought process, and that we need to try to understand things through his language specifically. Despite him saying that, no, it's only our interpretation that matters. I mean, that gets into the whole recursive idea of a person interprets a work and makes an interpretation, and people interpret based off that interpretation, and it becomes this endless form of self-critique and conversation. I forget the name of that cycle, which of course is non-compulsory, voluntary. Chapter 1. The studio was filled with the rich odor of roses, and when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of the lilac, or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn. From the corner of the divan of Persian saddlebags on which he was lying, smoking, as was his custom, innumerable cigarettes, Lord Henry Wotton would just catch the gleam of the honey-sweet and honey-colored blossoms of a laburnum whose tremulous branches seemed hardly able to bear the burden of a beauty so flame-like as theirs. Okay, I'm curious. I'm going to look up what a laburnum type of tree looks like later. And now and then the fantastic shadows of birds in flight flitted across the long tussore silk curtains. No. Tussore? I'll show you here the... Can I reverse this? I don't want to stop the recording. Not very clear picture that I'm looking at. In front of the huge window, producing a kind of momentary Japanese effect, and making him think of those pallid jade-faced painters of Tokyo, through whom the medium of an art that is necessarily immobile seek to convey the sense of swiftness and motion. The sullen murmur of bees shouldering their way... Excuse me, a little bit of indigestion. Through the long unmown grass, or circling with the monotonous insistence round the dusty gilt horns of the straggling woodbine, seemed to make the stillness more oppressive. The dim roar of London was like the bourdon note of a distant organ. Some things change, some things stay the same if you're familiar with moderately industrialized areas or regions near moderately industrious areas. I'm, I think, 15 miles away from the big city. I love my trees. More trees disappearing every year. Not enough coming back. Most of the oxygen on the earth does come from algae, but I love trees for their own sake. They don't need to give me oxygen. Well, I would prefer that they did, but there's the deal. And what is he sitting on again? Persian saddlebags in the corner of the divan. In the center of the room, clamped to an upright easel, stood the full-length portrait of a young man of extraordinary personal beauty, and in front of it, some little distance away, was sitting the artist himself, Basil Hallward. That's the name of the artist that wrote the artist's preface, whose sudden disappearance some years ago caused, at the time, such public excitement and gave rise to many strange conjectures. And he's right there. Okay. As the painter the painter looked at the gracious and comely form he had so skillfully mirrored in his art, a smile of pleasure passed across his face, and seemed to linger there. But he suddenly started up, and, closing his eyes, placed his fingers upon the lids, as though he sought to imprison within his brain some curious dream from which he feared he might awake. "All right. It is your best work, Basil. The best thing you've ever done," said Lord Henry languidly. Okay, so I gotta say this languidly. "You must certainly send it next year to the Grosvenor. Right. The Academy is too large and too vulgar. Whenever I've gone there have been either so many people that I've not been able to see the pictures, which was dreadful, or so many pictures that I've not been able to see the people, which was worse. The Grosvenor is really the only place." The voices can change later. "I don't think I shall send it anywhere," he answered, tossing his head back in that odd way that used to make his friends laugh at him in Oxford. "No, I won't send it anywhere." Lord Henry elevated his eyebrows and looked at him in amazement through the thin blue wreaths of smoke that curled up in such fanciful whorls from his heavy opium-tainted cigarette. "Not send it anywhere? My dear fellow, why? Have you any reason? What odd chaps you painters are! You do anything in the world to gain a reputation. As soon as you have one, you seem you want to throw it away. It is silly of you, for there is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. A portrait like this would set you far above all the young men in England, and make the old men quite jealous, if old men are ever capable of any emotion." "I know you will laugh at me," he replied, "but I really can't exhibit it. I have put too much of myself into it." Lord Henry stretched himself out on the divan and laughed. "Yes, I knew you would, but it is quite true all the same." Yeah. Oh, no. "Yes, I knew you would, but it is quite true all the same." "Too much of yourself in it. Upon my word, Basil, I didn't know that you were so vain, and I really can't see any resemblance between you, with your rugged, strong face and your coal-black hair, to this young Adonis, who looks as if he was made out of ivory and rose-leaves. Why, my dear Basil, he is a Narcissus, and you... Well, of course you have an intellectual expression and all that, but beauty, real beauty, ends where an intellectual expression begins. Intellect is in itself a mode of exaggeration, and destroys the harmony of any face. The moment one sits down to think, one becomes all nose, all forehead, or something horrid. Look at the successful men in any of the learned professions. How perfectly hideous they are, except, of course, in the church. But then in the church they don't think. A bishop keeps on saying that at the age of 80, what he was told to say when he was a boy of 18. And as a natural consequence, he always looks absolutely delightful. Your mysterious young friend, whose name you have never told me, but whose picture really fascinates me, never thinks. I feel quite sure of that. He is some brainless, beautiful creature who should always be here in winter when we have no flowers to look at, and always here in summer when we want something to chill our intelligence. Don't flatter yourself, Basil. You are not like him in the least. You don't understand me, Harry, answered the artist. Of course I'm not like him. I know perfectly well, indeed. Okay, good. Indeed, I should be sorry to look like him. You shrug your shoulders. I am telling you the truth. There is a fatality about all of the physical and intellectual distinction, the sort of fatality that seems to dog through history the faltering steps of kings. It is better not to be different from one's fellows. The ugly and the stupid have the best of it in the world. They can sit at their ease and gape at the play. If they know nothing of victory, they are at least spared the knowledge of defeat. They live as we should all live, as we all should live, undisturbed, indifferent, and without disquiet. They neither bring ruin upon others, nor ever receive it from alien hands. Your rank and wealth, Harry, my brains, such as they are, my art, whatever it may be worth, Dorian Gray's good looks. We shall all suffer for what the gods have given us, suffer terribly. Dorian Gray? Is that his name? Asked Lord Henry, walking across the studio towards Basil Hallward. Yes, that is his name. I didn't intend to tell it to you. But why not? Oh, I can't explain. When I like people immensely, I never tell their names to anyone. It's like surrendering a part of them I have grown to love in secrecy. No, I have grown to love secrecy. It seems to be the one thing that can make modern life mysterious or marvelous to us. The commonest thing is delightful only if one hides it. When I leave town now, I never tell people where I'm going. If I did, I would lose all my pleasure. It is a silly habit, going, I dare say, but somehow it seems to bring a great deal of romance into one's life. I suppose you think me awfully foolish about it. Not at all, answered Lord Henry. Not at all, my dear Basil. You seem to forget that I am married, and the one charm of marriage is that it makes a life of deception absolutely necessary for both parties. I never know where my wife is, and my wife never knows what I am doing. When we meet, we do meet occasionally. When we dine together, we go down to the Duke's. We tell our most absurd stories with the most serious face. My wife is very good at it, much better, in fact, than I am. She never gets confused over her dates, and I always do. But when she does find me out, she makes no row at all. Sometimes I wish she would, but she merely laughs at me. Apparently, we are 5 pages into this work, and I've had a lot of thoughts, but I've kind of been waiting for a good point at which to interject them. But this conversation, it just keeps going and going and going. Let's take this one paragraph at a time, yeah? If it wasn't clear already, this is Domhnall of Domhnall's Corner speaking. Hello there. Beautiful summer. Best thing, but he doesn't want to share it because he's put too much of himself in it. And he still has not clarified what he meant by that. And then there's this talk of people having a certain set of gifts and how a person's lifestyle reflects upon their look. And I'd say that you can definitely draw a lot of patterns in the way that one's face and artistic style develops and what that says about their character and their lifestyle. But these correlations aren't 100% and all of that. But I think that it's a lot easier, rather than going off of like somebody's physical appearance itself, more about the way that they carry themselves emotion. I think that that means a lot more because it's easier for us to tell, oh, is this person depressed, or are they just tired, or are they just sick, or is somebody is hyper or manic or joyful. First that, and then second how they dress, because there are so many different things that can be communicated through clothing, even on the more strange ends of costuming. I discussed it a lot through my philosophy of clothing and another follow-up video that I did. And I guess that's another aesthetic exploration. Axiology really is my specialty. So, there are ways to read into things, but you can never quite tell, particularly when somebody starts to become versed with the knowledge or admires people for other reasons and then mimics them in such a fashion. Like there's this old custom in many places of the world where if you admire a specific person or you want to take on a specific gendered role, like for example, in the priesthood, you become a man of the cloth, you become a father, a pastor. A pastor even means father, I believe. It's to be pastoral is to be patrilineage, you know? Obviously not a lot in the United States these days, but you would also take on the gender of that role along with the role itself. If it was a heavily gendered thing. And then the opposite, taking on things that you don't quite understand because they're beautiful, like how high heels were at one point riding shoes. All right. Expression of tallness. All right. There is a fatality about all physical and intellectual distinction. Better not to be different from one's fellows. All right, so he's not talking about, all right, extreme in any direction, that there's a way of that extreme being rebalanced. Not just about being particularly distinguished as in great, but just notable, pointing out, okay? And that the ugly and the stupid, and it's interesting, he's saying that the average person, the people who aren't too different, are both ugly and stupid, or within a certain range of that, and that's unfair. I mean, we can always make more beautiful and more well-read the new normal. Why not pull everybody up together, yeah? I mean, a single beautiful person can inspire a lot of beauty in the world around them, in the same way that an intellectual person, I mean, if they truly are intellectual, would inspire more intellectual action around them. We want people to meet us where we are, and we want to rise to our highest point. That's something that is a big part of my axiology, once again, that we are innately pursuing the good, or we are innately pursuing goodness, and people are one thing that is always good because we are the things that pursue goodness. But just because that changes depending on the type of person you are, we're all seeking the greatest freedom of expression. Hence, we want more power and freedom. And the way of balancing that. And then there's another thing. There's the confidence and expertise curve. Oh, I've never heard of this. I know nothing. Oh, I've learned a little bit. I know a great deal. Oh, wait a minute. No, this topic is so much more complex than I thought. Oh, no, okay. Now I'm reaching more consensus with the other experts and I have a fair deal of knowledge. I feel like a lot of people, like they go, like the whole idea of nihilism, which is a broad collection of philosophies, and absurdism and absurdist joy, an absurdist artistic expression. It's not really an emo or a goth thing. It's celebratory and freeing, and if I remember correctly, a lot of the existentialist thinkers eventually rejected their craft or their earlier thoughts before passing on from this world, although I think a lot of them are, no, I don't know how many are still alive. Long story short, they moved on from their original ideas, but I think that there is this, at one point people are mourning their expertise, or that they're taken aback by the level of knowledge they have, but that just means it's just growing pains, you just need to keep going, and that there is a point at which everything connects again, that everything comes around to being beautiful again. So it's not a matter of having gone so far and having left the world behind. It's having gone out into space, but not so far that you can see the whole solar system. Like, when you look out into the sky, you can feel disconnected or connected. And I'm not going to get too hippie with you about connection and disconnection. I have 2 minutes left of recording time on my phone, and we are not done with chapter 1. But I think we can finish this meeting. Now, this other thing about mystery and taking people away. I think this is going to be my last live reading. I think that these ideas need, in order to be fully formed, you need to have the whole conversation play out. So I'm going to get to the end of the meeting here in 2 minutes for sure, but have the whole thing play out and then enjoy it all at once. So you can get The Picture of Dorian Gray for free online and read along with my chapter discussions if you wish. I guess this is kind of becoming a kind of an unofficial solo, probably, book club. I guess if what you're pursuing is fun, then there's secrecy. But if there's a lot of peace and joy, or I guess even happiness beyond just the excited joy, but peace, happiness in, there are no surprises here. Oh, I was surprised. I expected to be surprised. And that's okay. Like the quieting of the mind and what we pursue at the end of history is like that final yes. And hello. And also just making fun of the church. I appreciate that. I have 20 seconds left on my recording. Oh, lo. Husband, is that the name? Not at all. Okay. I hate the way that you talk about your married life, Harry. There's no way I'm finishing this in time.